Welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we're talking about a Pro Football Focus article that has Marshon Lattimore listed as the make or break player for the Washington Commanders season. And so before we jump into that, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And so if you want to go check this article out, this is on Pro Football Focus, and this is the title of that article. It is written by Dalton Weiserman. And so as you can see, every NFL team's make or break player for the 2025 season. And within this article, Marshon Lattimore is listed as the make or break player for the Washington Commanders. And so let's go ahead, let's jump into what is being said about him. And so just paraphrasing this. And so talks about how he ranked dead last in the NFL in the PFF coverage grade last season, talking about how the Commanders obviously traded for him, and he only appeared in just 5 games due to a hamstring injury, and he earned a 40.7 PFF coverage grade. Lastly, it says that the team needs Lattimore to return to a high level, and he needs to play better to extend his career, as he has no guaranteed money left on his contract after this season. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And so going back to the title here, and it says that every NFL team's make or break player for the 2025 season. And so I disagree with PFF. I don't think that Marshon Lattimore is the make or break player for the Washington Commanders. In fact, let me start by saying this. I think that Marshon Lattimore is going to have a very productive season. And so this addresses that last piece talking about him and just how they need him to step up. And so I think that he's talked about it earlier in the mandatory minicamp and how he feels and how explosive he is, and just getting back to that. And so that is, number one, a great sign. It looks like that he looked pretty good out there at the mandatory minicamp. But what I am really excited about for Marshon Lattimore is not only that he's coming back healthy, but it's the fact that he's coming in with a full training camp with this team. He gets a chance to understand what's going on from a signal standpoint. He understands more so from a scheme standpoint what Joe Witt Jr. wants to do. And more importantly, the defense around Marshon Lattimore has gotten better, which means this. Maybe the things that we saw him do with the Saints, he doesn't necessarily have to do all those things to be as effective with the Washington Commanders, because the defense around him has gotten better. Now, make no mistake about it, he is going to have to lock up on the outside, but I do think because the Washington Commanders have added around him in the draft with Trey Amos, and then also brought over some pieces like Jonathan Jones, that is going to help Marshon Lattimore. And really, it could keep him fresh too, because there's a time where he might need to come off the field. You can rotate Jonathan Jones over there, and the defense can be just as tough to score on and versatile, which is what I talked about in yesterday's video. And so point number one here, I think that Marshon Lattimore is going to have a good season. And I think that that narrative around him and the whole, he only played 5 games and all this stuff like that. Look, he wasn't healthy going into the playoffs. He wasn't healthy, when he did step on the field, because a hamstring is a tricky injury. I can tell you that, especially being a runner. And so, I think that at the end of the day, we have to look at this and say, look, it was a small sample size. After a year, I think you can look at this and better assess it. But right now, I think that we have got to give Marshon Lattimore the benefit of the doubt. And I do think he's going to have a better season. And so next, I want to jump into another point as to why I don't think that Marshon Lattimore is a make or break player here. And it goes to the point that I made yesterday and that I've been making about this team. And I think something that is really overlooked, and it is the fact that this team has added pieces that is going to help this team on the defensive end. And especially when you look at the situation that happened with Marshon Lattimore, because look, if Marshon Lattimore gets injured, which I hope this doesn't happen, or if he has a down season, which I hope that doesn't happen, the Washington Commanders are in a good position to go ahead and they can pick up the slack if this happens. Because number one, I just talked about this with Jonathan Jones. And I think that with Jonathan Jones, a lot of people are really overlooking the fact that he is a two-time Super Bowl winner. So this is a guy that has seen a ton of different situations. I think that he still has a ton of juice. And I think that if Marshon Lattimore got hurt or he doesn't play up to, the standards that we're used to, and then Joe Witt Jr. has to make a change, you can throw Jonathan Jones out there and he can be on the outside. And we're assuming that Trey Amos is going to take off like he's taking off right now in the mandatory mini camps and how he's looked so far in the OTAs and things like that. We're banking on the fact that he is really going to be that player that is going to be sticky in coverage and really take off as a rookie. Then you have two players that can man the outside, and that still allows a player like Mikey Sandra still to slide inside. And so the Washington Commanders have insurance there. And then on top of that, let's say that Joe Witt Jr. didn't want to go with Jonathan Jones. He could also slide Mikey Sandra still over on the outside, which is something that he did last season. And he could play him alongside of Trey Amos. And that's counting on Trey Amos being ready to go from day one. And if he's not ready to go, then you still have Jonathan Jones over there. And that's not even counting the fact that you still have Noah Anagami out there. Like, you still have him. You still have guys like Kayvon Seymour. You still have Carlin Biggers, who's fighting to make this roster. Like, there's still other directions in which the Washington Commanders can go in the secondary. And I think because the fact that you have options in the secondary, this is why I don't think that Marshon Lattimore, having a breakout season is going to be really the make or break for the Washington Commanders, because they have so many good additions. And this is why you have got to love Adam Peters with the forward thinking. And he's showing you that he's playing chess and not checkers by going out, drafting the way that he did, and then also to bringing over a Jonathan Jones. And so that brings me to the next point here, and an added bonus to the video, because I think that the make or break player for the Washington Commanders is really on the offensive side of the ball, and it's Brian Robinson Jr. I think that he absolutely is the make or break player for the Washington Commanders. And in fact, not just him, I think that the running game in general is the make or break really for this team, because number one, I think that when you look at what the running game can do for you, first and foremost, you get an identity. You get a nastiness a nastiness with the running style. And that is exactly what we need to see from Brian Robinson Jr. And I think that right there really establishes the identity to the game. I think that really seriously, once you're able to move the football up front on the ground, that opens it up so much for your play actions and things like that down the field. There's so much that you can do from a scheme standpoint on the offensive end when you're running the football well. And the next thing that it does for you is that it actually helps our defense, because now we're talking about the time of possession. And then we're talking about if we're going against elite offenses, like I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say Cincinnati, you got Joe Burrow, who is a very good quarterback, great quarterback, been to the Super Bowl, everything else, but you want to keep him off the field, right? So how do you keep him off the field? You run the football well. And then also, too, just going into, a team that's in our division with the Eagles, what do we want to do? We want to keep Saquon Barkley on the sideline. And so we need to establish long drives. And how do we do that? We run the football. Next, I think that this is vital for protecting Jaden Daniels, because now, yes, we've added to the offensive line. That's perfect, terrific, and that's exactly what you wanted to do. But an added bonus to that is running the football, because now you're going to slow down the pass rush and you're keeping the defense guessing, and that's what you want. You want to keep the defense guessing, which moves me to the next point. Now you're talking about a balance with the offense. And we know that, look, if this offense is balanced, where you cannot stop the run, you're certainly not going to stop the pass with what Jaden Daniels can do with absolutely dropping dimes on the run. He can drop it into the bucket. Doesn't matter. He can make every throw. And then you factor in the fact with the additions of Jalen Lane, you have a guy like Luke McCaffrey, which it sounds like that he's hungry. And then you have Terry McLaurin, which I do think they're going to get back into the fold. Another year with Zach Ertz. We're not even talking about a guy like Ben Sinnott. Like, there's so many options in the passing game. You can only imagine what's going to happen if the running game is working. And so I think that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be huge with that. And I would say that, look, even if he doesn't collectively lead the unit as far as being the lead back, I think that as a group, they're going to have to show up. And so that means that him, Austin Eckler, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez Jr. I'm just throwing them all out there. I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to shake out and how many running backs they're going to take to the season. But I'm just saying that is really where the make or break for this season is at. To me, it is right there in the trenches running the football. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here. Are you with me in the sense that you think that, yes, it's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. and this running game? Because if they're going to throw out contracts, look, he's in the last year of his contract. And so this means that a long-term deal with the Washington Commanders is right there for him if he has a great season. And I honestly think that if he does have a great season, that could be the difference between the Super Bowl right there, because if you're able to run the football and then also to pass it the way the Commanders did, I think it's going to just help out just the entire football team, because now your defense is even more rested. They can focus a little bit more. And I just think we're going to start to wear defenses down more on the offensive end, because you just can't figure us out there. And so let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments with Brian Robinson Jr. Or do you feel like that you're with Pro Football Focus and you actually think that it is Marshon Lattimore? You think that Marshon Lattimore is the guy that is the make or break player for the Washington Commanders? Because like I said before, I think that we're in a situation where there is so much more, I think, depth back there in the cornerback position. And I think also too, just like the versatility overall for the defense is in so much more better shape this season than they were last season. And I think that a lot of people are going to see that this year, I think with just the additions and just the fact that Joe Witt Jr. can throw so many things out at offenses, it's going to take the defense to the next level, even though they didn't go out there and get a pass rusher in the draft, or they didn't go out and trade for a Trey Hendrickson and blah, 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 blah. But anyhow, you guys let me know in the comments, is it Marshon Lattimore? Do you think it's Brian Robinson Jr., or do you think it's another player that you think is the player that is the make or break player for us this season? And so you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And so anyway, go Commanders, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.